Welcome back to another episode of Wealth in Christ podcast, a show where we inspire the masses to become financially free while building God's kingdom. On the podcast today, we have Mr. John Merscaler.
Yeah.
Mr. John is a six-figure Amazon and eBay seller, and today we're going to talk about Mr. John journey so far and how he teaches people to get started as an Amazon seller and also eBay seller. So thank you for being here, Mr. John.
Thanks for having me.
So let's just get started. How did you get started as a seller?
So I started almost 4 years ago now. I started flipping furniture. So I buy like tables and chairs off of Craigslist, or people were giving them away for free, and then I would sell them on Facebook Marketplace. So if I paid like $50 for a table and chairs, I realized I could get close to at least 100, 150 on Facebook Marketplace. So I'd make like a quick $100. They would sell in 2 days, and then I'd just keep rolling the profits. And I did that for about a year. And then I had to go home for the holidays. I live in PA right now, Pennsylvania, and I'm originally from New York. And then like the business, like I couldn't really do any business because like I have to meet people in real life. So I was looking for another option where, I could have a side hustle or side income and not necessarily have to be there to meet people for sales. And I basically started Googling and, watched some YouTube videos, and I came across, a video by someone called Reezy Resells, and he's talking about selling books and going to thrift stores and then selling them on Amazon. And I just tried it out and I really liked it, and then kind of just went all in.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So how did you go about picking the books you was gonna sell and knowing how much they will sell for?
So there's an app called Scout IQ. So basically you download the app and it has this like database mode. So basically downloads like all the books in Amazon's category. And then basically you could set triggers saying like, oh, I only want books that will make me $5 profit. And it accounts for all the fees and everything. You could either enter like the cost. So most thrift stores have a cost of like between $1 to $2. So you could say, oh, the book, I used to do an average. So I'd be like, oh, the average book is 150, and I would just scan. And if it turns green, I would buy it. If it turns red, I just move on to the next book. And you basically just take like your phone here and you connect it like a little Bluetooth scanner to the back, and you just scan all the books at the store.
Oh, okay. So basically, if I'm just make sure I'm catching on and my audience can follow on when you listen to this, it's basically you download this app. What's the app called again?
Scout IQ.
Sky IQ. So you go to the thrift store, and from the thrift store, you have this gadget on your phone which scans the books. And
Correct.
as you go through the thrift store, it'll let you know the different price and how much you can sell it for. Right?
Exactly.
Okay. 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 So how long does that usually take you? Like how long did it take when you first started getting started going to the thrift store to do that
It
sort?
really depends on how big the thrift store is. So a lot of the times you end up just scanning books that are more like you want to scan like textbooks, uh, art books, just books that are more valuable than just like little paperback fiction books. Um, so it could take probably, I don't know, like an hour maybe in a store if it's a decent sized store. You could probably, depending on if like no one's been there or not, you could probably walk out with, I don't know, anywhere from like $200 to $500 worth of profit in a store. Just really depends on what's there.
Okay. So how do you go about, I guess my next question, how do you go about like I guess now picking a thrift store so you're not wasting time, There's like
Well,
certain thrift stores you go to. I'm sorry.
yeah. So now I don't even go to thrift stores anymore. So I got a warehouse now, and I buy books in bulk. So basically, I buy pallets of books. They're called Gaylords of books. It's about, I don't know, anywhere from 800 to 1,000 books per container, and then I process them at my warehouse. But for when I used to do thrift stores, I don't know. I would just do a rotation. So basically, I took my location and I knew thrift stores. I just had a whole list of thrift stores that were anywhere from like 2 to 3 hours away from me. And
Hmm.
basically every weekend I was working full time. I would just hit all the local stores every day. So there was one right where I work. So I go there during lunch every day and just,
Yeah.
and you go every day, like you know what you already scanned. So you're just really looking for the new books they put out. And then after work, there was a store right by my house. I'd go there, or there was two. I would go there. And then on the weekend, I'd pick a different location. So I'd like rotate all the locations.
Okay. Okay.
Or
That's great.
areas.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
So how do you go from scaling from going from thrift store to thrift store to eventually having your own factory where you're able to buy books? Like, what would you say are 5 things someone needs to do to scale to that point?
So five things. So number one, you really have to keep all the money in the business. So I was very fortunate. I had a full-time job, um, and I'm decent with managing money. So there was money left over after my paycheck. So what would happen is any profit I made from the books, I would just keep in the business and just keep buying more and more and more. And you build like partnerships with libraries, or you could do free book pickups. There's so much stuff you could do. Um, and I just ran it like really lean. Like I didn't really have a lot of expenses. And then with my salary, there was always stuff left over. So I'd put that aside in savings because I knew I wanted to do this full time. So I just kept building up like a reserve to the point where I had about 8 months of salary saved in a bank account. So I could go full time. So I'd say one, like you have to, if you want to do it full time, like you should probably, you know, definitely try to keep as much money in the business as you can. Um, Two, yeah, if you could put any money aside, to eventually quit your job if that's what you want to do, that would be a good option. Three, like you just really got to hustle and make connections, meet other sellers, go to networking events. That's been really helpful. I would say four, probably just watch a lot of YouTube videos. There's people doing different stuff all the time when it comes to books or just Amazon in general. And I guess number five, like you got to be willing to adapt. So like there could be like some situations where like people live in an area that don't have a lot of thrift stores or don't have a lot of books. So you might have to do some different Amazon business models if that's the route you want to go.
Okay, you're right. You're 100% right. So what made you niche down on books and specifically, compared to all the different products that are out there?
So books, it's really cheap to get started with books. Right when you're paying $1 or two a book, it doesn't really kill you if one doesn't sell or you made a bad buy. Or so what will happen is like out of all the books you actually send to Amazon, like maybe 70-80% of them will sell. So there's always like 10 to 20% that don't sell just because the price changed, demand changes, I got damaged by the warehouse. There's all sorts of stuff that happens. So like you're not really, that's not that bad. If you're paying $20 for something and you bought 10 of them, like you're in it for $200. And if it doesn't go well, like you're down $200. Um, and a lot of the times people view books as almost like trash. So everyone wants to get rid of them. Like, right? Like someone has to clear out an estate. They're like, oh, like they don't want to lug all the books out. So like there's opportunity to go and like help out, basically clear out the house yourself, box it up, and then kind of scan them and see what's good. Um, yeah, so it's basically low cost. I mean, it is high competition, depending on your area, just because it's like it's a very low barrier to entry. Um, but it's a great way to learn Amazon as well, because there's really not, it's pretty cut and dry. Like when I'm also expanding outside of books right now, it's much more complicated. With with different products, like if you get like this bottle of water on Amazon, sometimes the labels like red, blue, orange, so you got to really nail down like the data for a book. Like a book's a book. There's no variation on it except for hardcover, softcover. But it's pretty cut and dry. So there's really not too many mistakes you can make really when it comes to books. So yeah, it's a great way to get started, learn Amazon, and it's pretty inexpensive to start.
That's great. That's great. That is definitely great. So what would you say were some challenges that you made so far? That if you knew the information you knew now, you would have went back and corrected.
Oh, a couple of challenges. Um, Probably I would have hired someone earlier to help me list the books. So listing the books takes a lot of time. So basically, what you have to do is you go to a thrift store, you buy all these books, and then you have to list them and then send them to Amazon. And listing them and sending them to Amazon does take like a bunch of time. So right now I have someone listing the books for me. They come pick them up and they list them all. So if I could go back in time, I definitely could have found so many more books if I didn't have to list them, because I would just go out, like I could probably source almost twice as much as I did because I'd have all that time where I wasn't listing. Another thing I would do is probably try to work with thrift stores or other places that have books more. Um, Instead of like sometimes when you're scanning, you're like, you don't want to be seen, like you kind of like sneaking around, but instead just be like, hey, like I'm buying books. Do you guys have any in the back? Like, because a lot of thrift stores have a ton of books. So like you're almost doing them a favor if you could buy more than what they have out because they just have such an influx of them. So probably build partnerships and yeah, maybe find out ways to do it a little smarter. Maybe like hiring like someone to help me scout or do something like that. Um, but ultimately, I'm happy that like I actually went the bulk route and I'm buying in bulk. There's been a lot of changes at Amazon in regards to books and how many you can send in. So that's been a little challenging, but um, yeah, so far so good.
That's great. That's great. And how has your fate, helped you in this process, through the up and down challenges?
Um, I don't know. I just stay positive. I mean, it's just one of those things where like you almost have to think like it's gonna work out, like things are gonna work. A lot of times, like when reselling, like or doing Amazon, like you just have to push through it. Like there's gonna be a lot of stuff that like there's gonna be a lot of changes. There's gonna be competition. Some stuff won't sell. Like you're gonna make mistakes. But I think just almost like I don't know, looking at the bigger picture and, just knowing that like tomorrow's another day and that you could like definitely improve and things will get better if you keep
That's
working.
that's that's great. So how do you go about so you get the book. So how do you go about which book to send, in terms of like, because you buy them in bulk, so I'm assuming some books do come in damaged in some cases, or they have. So what kind of like do you like? Is there like a preference you go like if the book only has like a little rip, you can still sell it, or I don't. Like, how do you go about differentiating what you send to Amazon, what you don't, and you just take a loss on right away?
So that's a really good question. So out of all the books we buy, we could only use about anywhere from 30 to 40% of them. So it is, but the books we can use are very profitable and like make up for that. Um, so again, we have like a very similar software to like Scout IQ, and we're scanning all the books. And so when you scan a book, it will tell you, oh, this is good for Amazon. Um, they also have things called buyback companies. So some companies will pay like 10 cents for a book, and sometimes Amazon doesn't want it, but they want it. So we'll give them to that. So we work with a couple of buyback companies. We work with a couple of local people who want certain types of books, like someone wants kids books or history books. We put them aside for them. So basically, we're just going through them. Whatever's profitable for Amazon, we'll send to Amazon. We also sell on eBay, so anything that looks kind of valuable or an antique or something like that, we always put that aside and look it up later. And Yeah, usually the only things going to Amazon are books that are in very good condition. If they're not in good condition, they either go to a buyback company. Sometimes we'll list them on eBay if it's not too bad because we could take pictures of it. This way the person could see exactly what the book looks like. Um, yeah, but that's kind of, it just really depends. Or sometimes like you just have to not sell it. That's just how it goes.
Wow, 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 wow. That's quite interesting. That's quite interesting. So being that said, how do you go about pricing the books, whether it's on Amazon or eBay? Could you elaborate on how you go about pricing?
Yeah, so the software, so basically the softwares we use basically like tell you everything. So basically I use a software to scan the books. They're saying, oh, this is good for Amazon. Then we also have a listing software where we basically scan the book in and it basically shows you all the pricing that's going on. Amazon has what's called a buy box. So whenever you're looking at a product on Amazon, like if you were to click in this for this water bottle, there'd be a price up there, and that's basically the person or someone in the buy box. So the software is like, hey, like this bottle of water is going for $5. That's where we're suggesting you price it at. Or you have the option to go a little higher. It just really depends on how fast the books are going to sell. Um, on Amazon, on eBay is a whole different story because you gotta play into the factor like condition, how unique the item is, how many are on the market. I mean, there's some like you could like search eBay and you could see like what books have sold for in the past. There's definitely not an easy way to really do it like Amazon. Amazon is definitely much more efficient, but eBay, there's a lot more margin in eBay because there's less fees, and you're getting rare books that maybe there's only one or two on the market, so that one person who does stumble across it will pay a good bit of money for it.
That's really good. That's really good. And where do you buy the books and bundles from? Like, you can share that.
Yeah, so we buy from everywhere. We'll buy from thrift stores. We'll buy from recyclers. We haven't really bought from libraries. We'll get like a lot of donations. We have a website, so people will like go there, and they'll like say, "Oh, like I have a bunch of books I could donate. Can I drop them off?" So we'll get them that way. Um, yeah, there's just all sorts of different ways you could buy them. They have like almost like brokers you could work with who know a lot of people have books and you could go through them. So there's really a lot of different ways to get them.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I know like with Amazon, like something that's very important is reviews and like where your items show. So how do you go about on that side, making sure your books are being shown when people search it up on the search engine and the customers leave good reviews?
So for that, you really don't have much control over where your book shows up. Um, just because like you're competing with a bunch of other sellers. So if we both have the same book listed on Amazon, Amazon's going to make a decision whose price should be shown, and it's based on a whole bunch of different factors. Who has more reviews, um, pricing could be a factor. Sometimes it's location, like if you're in California and someone's buying it in California, they're definitely going to favor you because it's going to get there much quicker than if they got it from me in Pennsylvania. So there's really no way to guarantee that like you get the buy box, and Amazon does rotate it through sellers. So if we both had the same book and we both had like even metrics, like one sale you would get it, the next sale I would get, and then I'd just go back and forth like that. Reviews are definitely hard to get on Amazon because like people, you know, I don't know. I buy a lot of stuff on Amazon. I don't think I've ever wrote a review or given stars or whatever. Um, just because like I don't. It's not like if they popped an email or something popped up like, could you take 2 seconds to do this? Like, yeah, maybe I would, but it's not really like right in your face. But the best way to do it is basically just like kind of over deliver. You know, if you think a book is in kind of good condition, like you should list it as acceptable. Like if you know, a good book should be like in really good condition. So there's really no wavering on the customer. Like you want the customer to get it and be like, oh, they said this book is in good condition. Like this book's in great condition. So some people will leave reviews like that.
That's great. That is great. So my other question is there so you know you buy the books in bulk. From your experience, is there certain genre that sells better than others?
Yeah, there are a lot of so nonfiction books sell probably better than others. So it's very different. So like maybe sell better is not the best word. It maybe like books that make the most profit because there are a lot of like mass market paperbacks that sell a ton that really aren't that valuable for me when I scan them because they're only selling for $5 and like after fees, like you're not going to make any money. But the books that like you really make the most money on are probably like textbooks, reference books, religious books, personal development, how to, basically kind of like reference stuff, some cooking, cookbooks, and then kind of sometimes there's just stuff that's like trendy. Like recently with the whole Dr. Seuss thing, like when they banned the books, like prices went crazy for that stuff. Um, so yeah, you just never know like what's going on. But yeah, those are probably the most popular or the most profitable books is basically nonfiction, you know, how to, personal development, textbooks, art, that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
engineering.
that's pretty great. That's pretty great. And being I said, being like you mentioned textbook, do you is your goals like so let's say for now, are you more of like with a textbook, do you rent the textbook or you just sell the textbook or you do both?
I just sell it. I think there's options for sellers to rent it. Um, but that's just not something I want to do. Like I just want to get, so a lot of times when I get it too, it's not like it's in bad condition, but like I feel like if I rented it to you, by the time you were done with it, it might not be in that good a condition to rent it again. Um, so I just like to sell it, get rid of it, and like kind of move on.
Yeah, that's pretty
Plus,
yeah,
I don't
that's
have to worry about like, are you going to return it? Like, it's just easier for like just for you to buy it and then for me to find other books and move on.
yeah, you're 100% right. You're 100% right. Yeah, 100% right with that. So being that say, you know, how do you because you said something in terms of like, you know, certain times the books they sell but something like a news comes or like something with Dr. Seuss with a price is slashed. How do you keep up with those different trends? Because you never know when the author or of these
Yeah,
books.
so it's really hard. Well, not I don't. It's really the community. So the reseller community, like, is pretty big, and a lot of times, like, people will post about it on Instagram. You know, I have a lot of friends in the industry who will send me DMs or text me, be like, "Hey, if you have any of these books, like, the prices are going kind of crazy, because of XYZ." The Dr. Seuss books, I saw someone who I'm friends with, posted his Instagram story that him posting them on eBay and like selling them for like $400 in like a matter of minutes. So that I just searched my whole warehouse for those. Um, yeah, I mean it's hard to do. But yeah, sometimes a lot of we're gonna see it a lot during the holiday season. Sometimes it's just a demand thing. Like Amazon runs out of stock, and then once Amazon runs out of stock, like any other free marketplace, like, you know, Amazon could have been selling this for $5, but if they run out, I listed for 10. If someone wants to pay 10 for it, like someone will. And like that you saw that with the whole pandemic, right? Like people running
Yeah,
up like hand sanitizer and stuff like that. Like they're being ridiculous about it, but like I mean, that's how it works. I mean, Amazon does have like some caps on that in software, but sometimes by the time they catch it or it's like the person already sold it or whatever.
that's good. That's good. So how much books do you keep on hand to be delivered to Amazon? Um, how often do you go about delivering to Amazon?
So we get about 10 to 12 Gaylords of books a week. So it usually takes us about 2 days to scan all the books, sort them out for eBay or kids' books or buyback companies or whatever we're doing. Um, and then some books will sell merchant fulfilled, which means if someone buys, so we'll store it at our warehouse, and if someone buys it, then I send it to them. And then the other books will go to Amazon's warehouse. So when someone buys it, Amazon sends it to them. So on any given probably week, we're doing anywhere from like, I don't know, maybe 300 to 400 books to either. It just really depends on the batch. Then we'll probably list, I don't know, 20 to 30 things on eBay out of that. And then we have all sorts of other stuff that's going on with like buyback companies and stuff like that. So we could usually get it all done in a week. Um, but yeah, there's only so much we could send to Amazon at the current moment. So we're tending to merchant fulfill a lot more than sending them to Amazon.
And could you elaborate? So how do you do that? The merch fulfill part.
So the merchant fulfilled part came so back in it's either February or April. Amazon came out with this new thing called Restock Limits. So basically, during the pandemic, a lot of people started selling on Amazon. And so, like, I don't know how many more, but a lot of people also started shipping or buying more stuff on Amazon. So Amazon, like, basically ran out of warehouse space. They're having trouble getting help. So basically, they're basically like, hey, like, you guys can only send X amount of stuff to our warehouse. Prior to that, you could send as much as you wanted. They had like some other score, like the IPI score, where like it's based on your sell-through rate. So if you had a lower score, they might not let you send in, or they would cap your storage. Um, but they just kind of out of the blue said, hey, you can only send X amount of books in. And they just basically lowered it every week. And they didn't really say much, but it seems like they only want you to have about 30 days worth of inventory at any given time in their warehouse, which is very hard for booksellers because we operate, a lot of our stuff sells within like, I mean, there is some stuff that sells right away, but most of this stuff is at least takes like 6 months. It could take 6 to 9 months to sell through, just really depending on how, what the demand for the book is and just a bunch of other factors. So it's been a little rough for a lot of booksellers. Like, luckily, I am kind of in the middle where I'm not like huge, but I'm like small enough where it hurts, but like not as bad. And we're kind of taking measures to sell other things now to counteract this. But there are some people I've heard, like people who had like 100,000 books in inventory, and they're just like, you have to remove 50,000.
Oh, wow.
So like, yeah, there's the extreme of that too. A lot of people now merchant fulfilling books, just because it's very unpredictable how many they could send in. So it's just easier to merchant fulfill them. So there's been a lot of changes. But yeah, it's one of those things where you just have to adapt and, you know, do what's best for you.
You're 100% right. So where do you see the future of this?
So for me, it's probably doing online arbitrage, which is similar to books. It's the same idea because anything is arbitrage. So basically, it's like when you find something in another market for cheaper and you could sell it on another market for a higher price. So they call that like the arbitrage, like what's in the middle, and then whatever you get after fees. Um, so I've been experimenting with online arbitrage. So basically, like you could search sites like Walmart and Target and I don't know, Kohl's or any major retailer website and look for things that are priced less than on Amazon's website and where there's enough room for you to make an actual profit on. And then the other thing you could do is like wholesale, which is the same thing, but you're basically working with like manufacturers. Instead of buying like this Sharpie at Walmart, like you work directly with Sharpie and buy it from them and then sell it on Amazon. I do think that's the future. It's going to be tough for booksellers to do Amazon FBA just because they're capping you on growth, really. You can send in fast moving inventory, but most of it is a little more on the long tail side. So you really have to merchant fulfill it yourself. So I mean, that's definitely an option to do merchant fulfilled books, but that's just not what I want to be doing. I'd rather like send stuff to Amazon, have them sell it. A lot of stuff I've been experimenting with has sold pretty quickly from when it gets checked in at Amazon, and that's kind of what they want. So it's probably best to give Amazon what they want.
So would you be moving away from selling books? Being the fact that the cap rate on how much books you can send to them on a weekly basis. And
Yeah, I would be. So it's like, so for me, my business is a little different because I sell on, so most booksellers, like they really don't sell on eBay because they do a lot more volume. So they'll sell only on Amazon. So we also sell on eBay. So we dedicate like a good bit of time to eBay as well. Um, but yeah, in terms of FBA, which is like the big draw, because like basically you just send it to Amazon, you don't have to worry about it, and they just send it to the customer, they handle customer service and everything. Um, so yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm definitely headed away from books. I don't know how quickly, but I definitely see it to be a better opportunity outside of books.
okay. That's interesting. So being that said, would you, I mean, I have two questions. Would you recommend Amazon as a business for somebody to start? And two, would you, being the fact that the cap rate and all the different things in regards to the result of the pandemic, we tell people to use books, being the fact you stated earlier, is like a good entry to get a feel of Amazon. Would you change on that?
So I think it depends on what you want to do. So for it just really depends. So for me, like I used to be a copywriter, and it probably would have been easier for me to like do copywriting on the side and find clients to do that. But I don't really like client services. So like that for me, like if you're an electrician or something and like could like fix stuff or like, a handyman, like you might want to do that on the side. Like Amazon is definitely not for everyone. But I mean, if you want to go and like find a business where that already has customers, it's definitely a really good opportunity um, to one learn because e-commerce is definitely the future. I mean, we've seen that with the pandemic. More and more people are buying stuff online, and I don't know how much stuff you buy online, but I think once you buy something online, you're like, oh my god, that was so easy. Like I don't want to go back to the store. Like I'm just gonna buy it online. Um, so I do think that's one thing, and I do think books is a good place to start, but not a good place to stay. So books is a great place to, learn how Amazon works. It's cheap to start. Get a feel for it, how it works, how you send items in, kind of how you get labels, kind of like how you reprice, and just kind of feel your way through it. And they're easy to find. So doing online arbitrage, the stuff is definitely harder to find. You have to spend more money. Other people are definitely buying the same things as you or seeing the same things. So with books, it's like kind of hard. It's like if you get this book or whatever, if I find it, like you're probably not going to find it in your thrift store, most likely, right? But if you go to Target, like every Target has like a bulk of the same things for the most part. Obviously, it depends on the area where you are because, like, if you're in Florida, they probably have like a lot of sunscreen all the time. But
Hmm.
like, you know what I mean? But so I think there's that. It's definitely a good place to start and learn. but you're probably, unless you want to merch fulfill the books, you probably definitely want to look into online arbitrage, wholesale. There's private label. There's a whole bunch of things you could do. It just really depends on what you want to do and if you like it.
Well, that's great. That's great. So from what I'm getting from at least from this whole podcast interview so far is like data is very important. Like, understand the data. So how do you go about collecting the data, understanding the data, adapting to what the data is telling you on a weekly basis? 'Cause it seems like a lot has changed because of the pandemic.
Yeah. So with data, Amazon's always been a very like data heavy game for books. And other products that I'm sourcing definitely more because when you're spending, right? Like today I just spent close to $1,000, right? Like you want to be real sure uh what you're when you buy that like you really looked at all. So there's a software called Keepa and basically keeps track of the sales of a given product on Amazon. So you can see like when the price goes up, when it goes down, you can see how much it was selling for the last 90 days, like an average. So you can make some educated decisions. Like, for example, the product I bought today, I think was selling for $40 on Amazon currently. I'm paying like 20 for it, so I'll probably make probably like 10 to 12 on it. Um, but the 90-day price is 30, was 30. But there's also prices at like 45. So I'm just like, you know what? Like I could most likely make $10, but worst case scenario, I'm making $2. Like to spend 20 to make two is not great, but that's the worst case scenario. So you really just have to look at it like that. I'm also looking, oh, like what does this sell for on eBay? Because worst comes to worst, and I have to liquidate it. Can I get my money back on eBay? Um, and there's going to be stuff that I buy that, the data says it's a good buy, but other people buy it. They bring the price down, things change. A lot of the stuff we sell, Amazon does not sell. So they could all of a sudden start to sell it. So then they bring the price way down. So there's just a lot of different variables. But with these graphs and the data, like you just make the best decision you can at the given time. Um, yeah, like that's one of the hard parts about Amazon. Like you can see the 90 days and like what the price has been, but like that doesn't really mean anything. It's almost like the stock market. Like it could be going really well and then it could like be crappy for I don't know, 2 weeks or something. Like you just don't
Yeah.
know. Like it's out of your control, really. Um so, I mean, yeah, it's definitely very data driven, and you just learn by trial and error. So I just basically reordered a couple of products I ordered 2 or 3 weeks ago. So the first time around, I bought just 5 of them to test. Say, hey, are these gonna sell? Like, it seems like I don't know. Like, let's test it. They all sold. So now this time I bought like 10. So if they all sell, then it's like, okay, like how many of these can I sell a month? Like I'm gonna start buying maybe 20 at a time. Like it's gonna go up. Like so I could buy it isn't uncommon for someone to get something on sale at like for 50% off or something, or there's a coupon. And then everyone gets that 50% off coupon, and all of a sudden you're gonna make $5, and now like you'll be lucky if like you don't lose $1. Um, so it's just you got to get in, you got to get out, and then sometimes like if you could find a product that's like not on sale and still profitable, those are probably the best on Amazon. But then it just really depends on like if I'm selling one product and I'm doing great with it, and then all of a sudden you find it. Now we're like competing on price a little bit. Then maybe someone else finds it. So then like you have to move to something else. So it's constant like moving and kind of doing that stuff. That's kind of where you'd want to do like wholesale. Because wholesale, you have the opportunity to work with brands. So basically, you could get like exclusivity. So if I wanted to work with a brand and say they like sell like this item here, like I could say I'll sell it for you on Amazon, but I want to be the only person who could sell it. So then if you happen to send this in, I could like tell Amazon like, hey, this person isn't authorized to sell this, and they'll kick you off.
Wow.
So yeah, that I mean, that's very hard to find as well. But yeah, it's just kind of what you want to do. That's kind of my plan, is to kind of learn online arbitrage, and then hopefully find a bunch of products and then start doing wholesale. Once I
Wow.
have, because when you start doing wholesale now, you're not buying 10, you're buying 20, 30, 50, 100. Like, so you want to be sure that like you understand how to read the graphs, and maybe if you lose money on something, like why did you lose it? What didn't you see? Or like maybe it was just bad luck. But like to always kind of, when it comes to like online arbitrage or retail arbitrage, like you want to have a good idea. Books, like, I get 10, 12 pallets of books for like $800. Like I know like I'm making my money back just in buyback companies, the person who picks up all the books I can't use. Like I already broke even there. So anything for Amazon and eBay is almost like where I make the money. So it's just a lot of, trying to drill down on the data, read the charts, and just kind of do the best you can at the given moment.
Wow. 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 I would definitely want to ask about this. I actually have two more questions before you wrap up. In regards to getting exclusive deals with brand, how do you go about getting exclusive deals with brand, or how would you recommend someone going about getting exclusive deals with brand? How they find these deals?
So I've never done it before, so I'm not
Okay.
really sure. So, but what I hear supposedly is, Amazon is a very different animal than most places, because they set the rules. It's a great place to sell, but at the end of the day, it is their platform, so you have to abide by their rules. So if you're like a big company, right? Like you might not be happy with the fees Amazon is charging. Logistically, it could be tough, right? Like if you have a business and you're used to selling like your t-shirts, right? Just on your website, like you control the price, you control, I don't know, maybe who can buy them, who sees them, the marketing you're doing them. But all of a sudden it's on Amazon now, right? Maybe someone like buys wholesale from you and then starts selling it on Amazon for $3 cheaper than you. Like that's out of your control. You really can't do anything about it. I mean, as the brand owner, you could, but most cases, or you'd be like, you know what? I want to tap into Amazon's customer base. I don't feel like learning Amazon. I'm gonna find a seller to sell it for me who already knows how to do it, and we'll come to some sort of agreement or a good price, and then I don't know, you make money up front, and then I kind of take on the risk of like selling it on Amazon. But I don't really know a ton about wholesale and like these exclusive brand deals, but they're definitely out there, and a lot of people, as a lot of people shop on Amazon. So like,
Yeah.
you want your product on there. I mean, if people are there, like, they're not going to your website. Like, just think about how much stuff you buy on Amazon, or wherever you shop, right? Like most of the time, like you're not going, if bread is 5 cents cheaper at Walmart than Target, like you're buying 10 things at Target, like you're not going to Walmart to save 5 or 10 cents on bread. Right? It's just easier to
Yeah.
get it at Target, and it's kind of the same thing. Like you're already on Amazon, right? You buy something, they're like, oh, like would you like this other product? Like a lot of other people buy. Like it's just like easier, right? Like it's so easy. I literally go into my account. It's like here are the things you've ordered recently, like. And they're like, oh, I need this, blah 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 blah, and add it to your cart. Like they charge your cart, like it's like so easy, like it's insane. And 2 days later, it's out of your door. Um, so I think
Mhm.
as people do that, like they're gonna get kind of like not addicted to it, but it's like kind of like, oh, like what else can I buy on here? Like, there's some stuff you'll probably have to go to the store for always for the next couple of years, but I mean, eventually, you could probably get everything on there. And then like if you're getting like groceries and stuff, like I don't know, why would you go to the store if you could just get it delivered at like, it's usually a little more expensive, but then like, you know, some people are busy. Like I pay extra money all the time for having stuff delivered just because I don't have time to go out and get it. Like it's just easier for it to come here and, you know, go from there.
Wow, 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 wow. And how are you preparing for this holiday season? Does that being affect your transition from books to more arbitrage stuff? Like how are you preparing for the holiday season?
So this will actually really be my first holiday season because I mainly sell books. So books kind of have just been like, you know, they do better because, you know, more people are shopping for holiday stuff on Amazon. So, I mean, I've done it before. Like you buy a gift for someone or you buy a Christmas present, you're like, oh, I'm going to get something for myself too. And I kind of think books kind of fall into that category. Um, you're just on the platform and you're like, oh, I've always wanted this, like blah blah blah, and you get it. So for I've been more so January is actually textbook season, one of the textbook seasons. So I usually during Christmas I'm preparing for that, trying to find textbooks, get them all to Amazon. So when students go back in January, like I have my textbooks all in inventory and they could start buying them. So I don't 100% know like what to expect. I'm probably going to rely a lot on the friends I've made in the reselling to kind of see what they're up to, what they're buying, and kind of, you know, see what they think and kind of piggyback off of them. Um, but yeah, it should be interesting because I'm definitely going to be paying more attention. There's already a lot of buzz about there's going to be a lot of shortages of toys and pretty much everything because I don't know, there's a big like backlog of shipping and so the supply chains are all messed up. So there could be a lot of shortages of things. And usually when there are shortages of things, like the price on Amazon become pretty crazy because people just want it and they want to secure it. It opens up a lot too for like local marketplaces like Facebook. You know, parents are chasing a hot toy or whatever. Like instead of going to like 10 Walmarts, like they'll pay like who knows how much more just to like be able to drive 10 minutes and go get it. Um, so yeah, it's going to be very interesting, I think. I know a lot of people who say they make all their money in fourth quarter during the holiday season, and you know, I make a lot of my money during like the textbook season. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And yeah, I'm just going to try to like do my best, like kind of, you know, do what I know and yeah, try to rely on some people who are already doing it or know how to do it. Kind of try to talk to them and network with them and kind of see what they're up to and see if they can help me out.
No, that's definitely. So my last question would be, how do you go about networking with different sellers on Amazon? Like you saying, as you're preparing for this holiday season, you have different people you can bounce off ideas. So how can someone who's new start networking with people who are Amazon sellers and stuff like that?
Uh, I think a good place to start would be obviously Instagram is a good place. I mean, that's kind of how we met. Like I get DMs all the time. People ask me for help. I try to answer most of them. It's getting harder and harder these days to do it. Um, but Instagram's definitely a good start. There's a lot of Facebook groups. So if you went like Amazon FBA book selling Facebook groups, like a whole bunch would pop up. You could join those groups. You could read a lot of the posts. People ask questions all the time. People answer them. And yeah, it really just comes down to, I mean, I guess trying to, like anything else in life, like how could you help that person? Like for
Mm,
me right now, like it's like, oh, how could someone who has not started selling at all possibly help me? Like, right, I'm doing six figures, I have a warehouse, but like there's stuff I want, right? I just started a YouTube channel. Like I want people to watch those videos. So like if you share the video or like, you know, say, hey, like I think one of the best ways to do it too is to almost be like, hey, like I've watched your YouTube video on this. I did this, it worked out really well, but now here's where I'm struggling, right? Because obviously I know they like took action, like they watched a video. So I'm more prone to help them because like, they took action and they doing something. Like I can't tell you how many people or DMs I get of um, oh, how do you start? What do you do? Blah blah blah. And like I spend all this time like doing it and showing them, and then like 6 months later, be like, oh, did you start yet? They're like, oh no, not yet. Like I don't know. Like so like it's very like hard now, right? Like so I'm becoming a little bit more selective in how it goes. But yeah, I mean, there's networking events. I mean, those are probably the best things to go to just because like you'll meet a ton of sellers. I'd have to say the reselling community is very, very helpful and accommodating. I mean, there's your bad apples out there, but for the most part, everyone's always happy to help and share information and kind of answer questions. I mean, there's so much content on YouTube. I would say, like, start there and like kind of learn that way. And then, yeah, follow up with people. Say, hey, I watched your video on this. What do you mean by this? Like, I kind of understand. I don't. And then, like, just show that maybe you took like some initiative to like check out their stuff. And I would also say ask like I'm trying to make a YouTube video about this. I'm like trying to articulate it, but almost like ask better questions a lot of the time, right? Like sometimes like the best question isn't like which software to use, right? It doesn't matter. They all pretty much do the same thing. Like I'm using different software for very different reasons, right? Like I have different goals. Like if you're just starting out, like you don't need the software that I have, right? So it's doesn't matter what software I use. I would hope you'd be asking, like, I'd almost think, like, if you could ask this person any question, like, you only got one of them, like, what would it be? Like, I would almost think of it that way. And, like, make a count, and, like, you don't want to be like, oh, like, what should I start selling? Like, that's, like, not helpful. There's no context there, or it's just very hard to almost, it's hard to explain, like, to someone like if you're not getting DMs about people asking for help, like you have no idea what it's like, right? Like somebody, like, oh, what should I do? It's like, well, I don't know your situation. Like, do you have a job? Like, do you have a family? Like, what are you doing? Like it's just so many things that it's hard to, and they almost want an exact answer, and it's like very hard to do. So I would say, yeah, try to ask maybe better questions and kind of, just try to like be aware that like a lot of sellers have a lot of stuff going on and like it's hard to get to everyone and everything. But yeah, try to consume their free content and then like I would say use that as the bait. Be like, hey, I watched this, I did this, thank you so much, like it was so helpful, but I'm getting stuck here. And then like most of the time I think that's a pretty good step in the right direction.
No, you're 100% right. I mean, I don't get as much DMs or as you probably would, but I do like stock investing, and I do deal with that when somebody would just come and like, what stock to invest in. I'm like, I can't tell you exactly what stock to invest in.
Right.
Different tolerance. I don't know how much money you're trying to play with. I don't want to be responsible if I tell you to play this play or put money in the stock and you're not willing to hold on. So I hope people do definitely ask questions, better questions, and actually take advantage of free source. YouTube, you have a lot of information on your YouTube page that could help people start their Amazon page. So thank you for that. Um, I don't know if you have any course or any program besides YouTube that people could um
I
take
don't have
advantage of.
courses. I do consulting if everyone is interested in that. You can send me a DM on Instagram at Side Hustle Experiment, or you can just check out my YouTube channel. Try to upload a couple of videos every week. That's also Side Hustle Experiment. And yeah, I'm always happy to help or answer questions. Try to get to all of them. Not easy sometimes, but yeah, I'm always trying to help out.
All right. Thank you very much, John. It was definitely a pleasure to learn more about your journey as an Amazon seller, eBay seller. And I hope those who are listening do take some action. As you watch this video, take notes, go on his page, watch his videos of free content. Um, and hopefully, if you guys are interested, start the Amazon store.
Yeah.
And for those who may not know, you guys can get a free study guide, stock study guide. Basically, show you how to get basically a step-by-step study guide. I will show you how to get started in the stock market on my website, wealthandchristbrand.com. Basically, yeah, you can get it there for free. And stay tuned for next week's episode. And thank you again, Mr. John. It was definitely a pleasure.